ministre de l'Emploi et du Développement social et ministre du Multiculturalisme, M. Jason Kenney, à venir prendre la parole.
Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Assalamu alaikum. Assalamu alaikum. Eid Mubarak. Bonsoir, good evening, friends. Welcome to your Parliament Hill. Sayedna, various imams and spiritual leaders who are with us, Vos Excellences, membres du corps diplomatique, mon collègue le ministre Alexander et tous mes collègues parlementaires qui sont ici, y compris le sénateur Atouladjan, le sénateur Seth, Isabelle Morin, José Inez Melo, Parliamentary Secretary Parmjit Gill, and Joe Daniel. Thank you all. Please give a hand to all, tous les parlementaires qui sont parmi nous. Et donc, nous sommes rassemblés ici ce soir pour célébrer tout ensemble, Canadiens des foi différentes, des célébrations d'Eid al-Adha. Parce que, entre autres, c'est une occasion pour nous à reconnaître, à célébrer avec nos frères et nos sœurs, nos concitoyens musulmans, la présence positive au Canada de plus qu'un million de Canadiens de la foi islamique. We are here today, yes, to join with our Muslim brothers and sisters, all Canadians, in celebrating And as we know, Eid is the moment when we contemplate the remarkable willingness of our father in faith, Ibrahim, to sacrifice his own son. People of the book know this story well. They know what it says about love of God for his creation, love of the father for his son, of parents for their children. But one thing we should never forget is that the story of Ibrahim and Ismail is, yes, a story of the Quran, but it is also a story of the Hebrew Scriptures. It is also a story in the Old Testament of the Christians. It is one of the many stories of divine revelation that unite all of the Abrahamic faiths, the monotheistic faiths, the people of the book. And it is a reminder to us that we should never allow voices of hatred or intolerance to divide those people, to in this country where all of la célébration ce soir avec l'hymne national du Canada. We started with our national anthem, which asks that God keep our land glorious and free. And you know this is not something I think well taught in our schools, but the very first words in the Canadian Charter of Rights and Freedoms, a part of our Constitution, are the following. Whereas Canada is founded upon principles which recognize the supremacy of God and the rule of law. These are words that Canadian Muslims, Canadian Jews, Canadian Christians, Canadian Sikhs, people of all different faiths can share in common, recognizing this preface to our Constitution, that we share this value. And so I thank tous les organismes musulmans qui ont travaillé ensemble pour le succès croissant de cette célébration d'Eid sur le Qalim. I want to thank all of the Muslim organizations who have cooperated to make this possible. I think it is magnificent that as I look out on this audience, I see imams and community leaders who are Shia, who are Sunni, who are Ismaili, who are Sufi, who are from the Middle East, who are from South Asia, who are from Canada, all of us together united here in the center of our democracy. And I know that je sais que le Premier ministre Harper était tellement heureux d'avoir l'occasion à participer à cette célébration Eid sur la colline. l'année dernière, I know that Prime Minister Harper was so moved, so touched to participate in this event last year, when he said from this stage, quotes, "In being with you here tonight, it is plain to see the moderate, benevolent, true face of Islam, to see people who have embraced Canada and contributed immensely to our economic and cultural life. Friends, our incredible cultural diversity is one of Canada's greatest assets." He went on to say that, quotes, "We all believe that promoting religious freedom is an essential building block for peace and stability here at home and throughout the world. Right across Canada, Muslim communities are making positive contributions to our great country. And tonight's event is one more wonderful example of how we can all come together as Canadians." Stand in solidarity with Muslims around the world who find themselves in difficulty. My colleague, Minister Alexander, was Canada's ambassador to Afghanistan, and he knows very well that Canada's largest international development assistance program anywhere in the world, in our history, has been in a Muslim nation, helping the people of Afghanistan, building schools so that girls and boys can learn to read and write, vaccinating children against basic diseases, helping to train teachers to provide the kind of education that is so essential to promote peace. And Canada is promoting trade and prosperity in the Muslim world, for example, pursuing a free trade agreement with Morocco. And Canada has its largest refugee program, resettlement program, from a primarily Muslim country of Iraq. And now Canada has founded the new Office for Religious Freedom to make, in the words of Prime Minister Harper, the protection of religious freedom and of vulnerable religious minorities a key pillar of Canada's foreign policy. On a ciblé l'importance à protéger la liberté de religion et de conscience partout dans notre politique étrangère. And let me say a word about this, because tragically, not a day passes when we do not open the newspaper and read about violence that has been inflicted against innocent Muslim believers because of their faith. Just last week, people attending a wedding in Baghdad, dozens bombed and killed because they were Shia. Or people in Pakistan targeted for violence because they were Sufi. This happens too often in too many places. And as Canadians, we say together with one voice that those who use violence to target believers of any faith do not represent true religion. They represent nothing but extremism, violence, hatred, and enfin, permettez-moi de dire quelques mots sur la liberté de religion ici, au Canada. Parce que vous savez qu'on a eu des très bonnes démonstrations de la diversité de la communauté musulmane au Canada avec les jeunesses multiculturelles québécois qui ont fait... Et c'était touchant à voir leur dynamisme, leur patriotisme et leur dévouement. Mais il faut rappeler que l'islam n'est pas une confession nouvelle au Canada. L'islam et les musulmans sont au Canada depuis plus d'un siècle. Let us not believe that Islam is a new faith in Canada, or that Muslims are a new part of our diversity. Yes, it's true, the Muslim community and its diversity is now more than 1 million strong, from dozens of countries of origin. But there have been Muslims in Canada building our country, our prosperity, our society for over a century. Earlier this year, as a gesture of recognizing that history, I had the opportunity to visit the Al-Masjid in Edmonton, that was founded by Shia immigrants from the Becha Valley in northern Alberta, in Edmonton, in 1938. Imaginez-vous, les nouveaux arrivants du Liban, de Becha Valley, qui sont allés au grand nord-ouest du Canada, en plein hiver, et ils ont créé une communauté islamique là-bas. Do you know what they were doing? Many of the original first Muslims there in northern Alberta were fur traders. I can't imagine why they would go from the beautiful warmth and the cedar and olive trees of the Becha Valley to go to the frozen northern Alberta, but they were hardy, strong people of character, and they built the first mosque in Canada, the third oldest mosque in North America. It is still there as a sign of the presence, the roots of the Muslim community in Canada. And so, let me tell you, friends, as your minister for multiculturalism, how distressed it makes me when I have to go and visit mosques, like I've done in Gatineau, in Laval, à Montréal, le mosquée du projet charitaire islamique, le mosquée à Burnaby, the mosque in Burnaby of the BC Muslim Association. When I have to go and visit mosques as an expression of solidarity because they have been targets of vandalism, violence, and expressions of hatred, it grieves me as a Canadian to see these expressions of prejudice, of stereotypes, of misunderstanding, of bigotry, and perhaps even of hatred. We condemn these things. We condemn these things, and this is why the Government of Canada has created a security infrastructure project to help vulnerable community institutions, including mosques and Islamic schools and so many other places, to reinforce their security against these expressions of hatred and even violence. But let me say something else. A Canadian is no less a Canadian because he or she is a Jew who wears a yarmulke, or a Christian who wears a cross, or a Sikh who wears a turban, or a proud Muslim sister who wears the hijab. All of them are Canadian citizens, and all of them possess and deserve the full protection of the Canadian laws and the Canadian Constitution. Et soyons clairs, l'exclusion n'est pas une valeur canadienne. Les efforts à cibler pour la discrimination, ceux ou celles qui sont les Canadiens fiers, bien intégrés dans notre société, mais qui vivent avec cohérence avec leur foi et leur tradition, en portant l'hijab, en portant un turban, en portant une croix ou un yarmulke. Ces personnes sont les Canadiens. Ils ont les mêmes droits que tous les Canadiens. Et je vous assure que si l'Assemblée nationale du Québec adopte la loi de charte des valeurs québécoises qui est auprès de l'Assemblée nationale actuelle, le gouvernement du Canada, votre gouvernement, va la mettre en cause. If the National Assembly of Quebec seeks to exclude people from serving their fellow citizens because of a legitimate and modest expression of their faith, whether it's the hijab, the turban, the cross, or the yarmulke, your government of Canada will defend the constitutional freedom of Canada. Merci d'être venu de partout. Merci d'être venu de Montréal, de Toronto, de tous les coins du pays pour célébrer ensemble. Thank you to you and through you, to all of the Canadian Muslim community, for all that you do to make our country stronger. May God keep Canada glorious and free. Merci beaucoup.
Monsieur Jason Kenny, en tant que femme voilée et enseignante, j'aimerais vous dire